welcome to this dinner of the St. Ronan's Border Club. This is the banner of the club. As you see, it has a coat of arms. It also has the names of Scott, Hogg and Bell upon it. Scott, referring to Sir Walter Scott, our chief guest. Hogg, Mr. James Hogg, the Ettrick Shepherd, who's dressed in his captain's outfit. He is a captain of the games, and he is the chairman for this evening. Then we have our lady guest of this evening, the Baroness Lady Nairn from Edinburgh. And of course, as myself, Henry Glassford Barrell, very clever literary gentleman from Edinburgh, editor, thank you, editor of the Edinburgh Literary Journal. The year, by the way, is 1829. 1829. And this is the sort of dinner that used to take place and still does. And I'll tell you just a little bit about it. I told you about the banner. Here is the silver arrow. But during the day, we have been competing at Innerleithen for prizes and all sorts of games, including archery. And this was the silver arrow that was awarded to the best archer, and it was in fact won again this year by Mr. James Hogg himself. There's also been all sorts of running and playing of quoits and other games of, and wrestling too, I may say, and we do have the chief wrestler here this evening, but that prize will be awarded later on. So just to give you an idea of what goes on this evening, the dinner will commence in about 5 minutes or so, and you just carry on and have a jolly good meal. But after the dinner there'll be a break, which I'm sure you will require, and 20 minutes after that there will be the speeches from the top table. But don't get worried about that, the speeches will be very short and to the point, mostly in praise of our chief guest Sir Walter Scott, who will then reply to the speeches that have been made in his honour. After that we have entertainment for you. Mr. James Hogg himself is a splendid singer, as is Professor Wilson at the end there. You notice his name is not on the banner. He's not as famous as the rest of us, although he is quite a good singer. And we have a marvellous fiddler for you from Ancram, Karen Hunter. And of course we have our piper, Mr. Robert Veach from Innerleithen, who will also entertain you later on. And we may also be able to persuade Lady Nairn to sing one of her famous ballads, perhaps The Land of the Leal or some other ballad that you may remember. So that is the way that things will go. The other duty that I have this evening is that of croupier. In other words, master of ceremonies, which I'm trying to do at the moment to keep things going and to let you know what is happening. But the croupier also is empowered to fine people for misdemeanours. For instance, if you wish to leave the room, you will have to pay the lady, the money changer and money collector at the foot of the room there, Mistress Dorothy, 2 shillings. Everything is old money, by the way. 2 shillings. For a more serious misdemeanour, it may be as much as 3 or 4 shillings. The money, by the way, doesn't go to us, but to the St. Ronan's Wells Appeal Fund, which is to hopefully supply an interpretive and information centre at Innerleithen. You'll find more about that, in fact all about that, in a little leaflet at your table. So it's all going to be in good fun, but for a very good cause. Now, I think I've more or less said enough, but I think I should perhaps start off with a fine to keep the thing going. So, looking around, I don't see all that many people in period dress. I notice Mrs. McKee is, and Karen, and 1 or 2 others, but the rest of you, I'm afraid, seem to be arrayed in some sort of dress from another century. So because of that, I will fine you all 2 shillings. Please pay Mr. shillings. Let me just read out this verse of a poem of mine, that I am a famous poet, you know no heavy glass of bells money. It's on the back of the menu, because I had the menus printed. Of course, I printed one of my own poems here. So this is all what it's about tonight. Thus passed the night with song and flowing bowl, all welcome happy, all so kind and gay. That was a sight enough to raise the soul above its brittle tenement of clay. Into celestial regions, for the whole met to be merry, and resolved were they to part good friends, aye, jovial, glorious friends, and so they did, and thus the evening ends, and find 2 shillings! Ladies and gentlemen, I will now introduce you to our chairman, Mr. James Hogg, the Ettrick Shepherd. Mr. Hogg.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. And may you be a good croupier this night, and fine a law as fast as you can. For the more money we get out of the folk, the better it'll be for the appeal fund. I'll not take up your time the new, ladies and gentlemen, for after the exertions of the games, you'll all be fair starving and ready for your meal. So I'll just introduce you to the top table guests. There's Mr. Bell, a young Edinburgh lawyer. Was introduced himself, the impudent puppy that he is. And then there's the very distinguished Professor John Wilson, of the University of Edinburgh, where he holds the chair of moral philosophy.
If Mr. North, or rather Professor Wilson's chair was made of models, he'd surely collapse.
Enough of that, Mr. Bell. Any more cheap for you, and I'll kindly ask you to find yourself a shilling.
Find myself?
Now both Mr. Bell and Professor Wilson are real Kent faces at the games. They've been coming to Innerleithen for long enough. And they're no bad athletes in their own right.
Aye, but as to Mr. Bell's athletics, his elbow receives more exercise than any of his other muscles.
You're speaking out of turn, sir. I can fine you 1 shilling.
I agree, Mr. Bell.
You can't find me.
I can fine you.
We're telling the truth.
I
I'm telling the truth.
agree with you, Mr. Bell, but just find yourself 4 shillings for causing the aggravation. Pay up, gentlemen.
Very well.
2 shillings to you, sir.
Thank you. Now, as Mr. Bell has said, we're all here to have a good time the night. And our own special guest, Sir Walter Scott, who needs no introduction from me or anybody else. He's the greatest Scotsman of the day, or on a day. Sir Walter Scott. Mr. Bell. Mr. Bell, find that man over there for not putting his hands together.
Aye, Mr. Montgomery here didn't clap hard enough. 2 shillings.
2 shillings.
Mr. Bell has told you, the speeches and signs will come later, as will the songs and music. So in the meantime, I declare this dinner open to all who can enjoy it. But no afore we say grace, the Selkirk grace, writ by the bard who runs a good second to Sir Walter Scott in the race to Parnassus, Robbie Burns. Ladies and gentlemen, the Selkirk grace. Some he meet and can eat, and some he name that want it. But we he meet and we can eat, say let the Lord be thanked.
Let the dinner commence.
They said that they would have to be excused. Well, I think Gina would have quite enjoyed coming, but was he in the Yes.
He is, yes.
We believe in some affliction. If I'm able to overcome, we can't suggest please think of the side of it, suggesting the human habitation, I wouldn't inflict that on anyone. Not even itself. Yes, but it won't be out of earshot, will it?
Well,
He does speak about the terrible diarrhea.
So Walter, are you returning to Evansville this evening, or will you go back as usual and find a steak to actually steal?
Neither, I'm preparing for the village of St. Robin's tonight, Mr. Bell.
Oh, are you?
About the claret.
Are you staying with me?
Yeah.
Here we now are at our hopefully short speechifying, but before I do that, I would like to welcome all those from foreign countries, not from these the Scottish borders, those from, I hear, Norway. Other people from Norway here? Norwegians? Yeah? Welcome. And from Germany? From Holland? And I believe from England. England.
German, is that a foreign country?
England is a foreign country, and all Englishmen shall hereby be fined 2 shillings for being English. Thank you. So now that we go on to the second part of our evening, and I hope the planet has been going down pretty well. It certainly has here at the top table.
Here, here.
You will find that we're, yes, Professor Wilson, I think a lot goes into your glass and comes out the other end. We at the top table are getting somewhat inebriated, so if we can't speak properly, do forgive us. However, as your croupier and as editor of the Edinburgh Literary Journal, and as a very famous man as I am, you see, just as famous.
Get on with it, Bell!
These two gentlemen here, Sir Walter Scott and Sir James Hunt. I mean, Sir James, perhaps it ought to be Sir James Hunt. And of course, Lady Nairn, who will herself speak a little later on. But let us say, I am quite famous in my own right. And
get on with it, man. Nobody's interested in your havens or your scribblings.
Oh, I'll sit.
Wee lawyer that you're.
Aye, give it to him, Jamie.
Aye. Aye.
Well, I'll fine you 2 shillings. You shouldn't be interrupting the croupier.
You can't do that, Mr. Croupier.
I'll fine you. I'll fine you too.
You can't find the chair. Oh, sit down and hold your wish.
Alright, I'll not say another one.
As I'm on my feet,
I'm in the hut.
I'll introduce our first speaker.
I'm in the
Professor Wilson of Edinburgh University. He's been a recht good friend of mine for many years, and is good a friend to Innerleithen. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the president of the St. Ronan's Border Club, Professor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, I am indeed happy to be amongst such a glorious and lovely company this evening. It is like a gathering of the gods on the slopes of Mount Parnassus, with Zeus himself sitting on the throne before us. If it wasn't for that young puppy of a croupier constantly fining us, we'd be having the time of our lives.
You'll be finding
Yes, this evening is for a good cause, the restoration of that fine pavilion of St. Ronan's Well.
Here.
Indeed, that well has become famous throughout the civilized world, thanks to the efforts of our chief guest this evening, Sir Walter Scott, since he depicts it in his popular and humorous novel of that name.
And don't forget the play, sir. Don't forget the play.
Nor shall I forget the play. But famous and the play and the novel have become, Innerleithen remains entitled Innerleithen. The town has not changed itself to St. Roman. But enough of literary matters. Today we have enjoyed splendid exertions on the games field. The competitors have travelled for many miles, some on foot, from all over the borders. The race has been to the fleet. The competitions, wrestling, archery, kites, have been fought and won, and medals and prizes awarded. All that is save one. This evening I'm presenting a special prize to the winner of the wrestling competition. That winner is here tonight, Mr. George Scoogle of Innerleithen. Mr. Scoogle, approach the top table and receive your prize.
Well done, Rick.
What a strong man.
Your feet to the ground.
Now, although we meet but once a year at Innerleithen for the games, many of us at the top table have met in Edinburgh. Our particular watering hole is one owned by Ambrose, an inn. We have named our evenings there Noctes Ambrosianae. Now, Mr. Hogg up from the country, and Mr. Lockhart, a son-in-law of Sir Walter, and many other distinguished literary gentlemen consume huge suppers and vast amounts of whiskey punch, after which we proceed to put the world to rights. Yes, and of course, I must say that Blackwood's magazine regularly publishes some of the gems of wisdom emanating from our Noctes Ambrosianae.
Aye, and it should be same. You blacken my character in yon magazine. Letting the whole world ken what I haver about when I'm drunk. And ye making up the worst date yourself. Ridiculous things I never said.
Oh, come, Jimmy, it is unlike you to be so sensitive.
Ye had my name in print as a boozing buffoon. Oh, boozing buffoon!
But Jimmy, when we are in our cups, are we not all boozing buffoons? Is that not the case, Mr. Bell?
Well, are you not?
Yes. But now back to the matter in hand, our dinner and our special guest of the evening, Sir Walter Scott. Indeed, it was the testimonial of Sir Walter, added to that of Wordsworth, which gained me the chair of moral philosophy at the University of Edinburgh, and I am much in Sir Walter's debt. I shall say no more than this, that there sits a great genius, a great gentleman, and a great friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. An eloquent speech indeed. No wonder you're renowned in Edinburgh for your oratory. It's a pity your pen doesn't match your tongue. Who never? It now falls on me to add my praise to all the praise that's been heaped on Sir Walter over the years, ever since he admitted in public that he was the author of the Waverley novels.
Well, we have kent that for a long time.
We've known that for a long time, Jimmy.
Not at all. How we all kept that he was the author of the Waverley novels. Has he no years, I more than a few of stories that I tell him, to which you're welcome, Sir Walter. Sir Walter is, well, he was, he's now a wee bit wabbit, but in his day he was a strong athlete.
Too much claret.
Did he no win the wrestling prize at the games 6 years sign? And he's a keen sportsman for by. A sportsman with a wicked sense of humour, in the daily Selwood envy. I remember young Nick, four of us, including Sir Walter, we were in a boat on the Tweed, just down by Ashestiel there, and we were leastering kippers, and then spearing the fish with tridents, and then being attracted with a loud lamp. Now, when the boat reached Gleddy's Wheel, that was the deepest pill of the Tweed. Did the boat now start to sink? And one of your members in a fierce douche cries to Sir Walter, "For God's sake, push her to the side!" Sir Walter laughs and carries on reciting, "And gin yon boat were bottomless, and 7 miles to row." And right enough, there was our boat, right down to the bottom, and there we were, heel our lugs in the Tweed. Sir Walter laughing and enjoying the sport. We'll, like Professor Wilson, I would like to pay my tribute to Sir Walter's generosity of spirit and his kindness to all his friends, and not only to his friends, but to everybody he meets and what corresponds with him. I believe he answers every letter that's sent to him, whether for rich or poor. He is truly an extraordinary man. He's the greatest man in the world. Here is a name that, next to William Shakespeare, will descend with rapt admiration to all the ages of the future. Sir Walter Scott. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before I say any more, I would like to introduce Lady Nairn, who would like to say some words to Sir Walter Scott. Lady Nairn, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, I would like to give Sir Walter Scott a word or two of advice. For one, as I do, come from a Jacobite family. After the 45, when, as you know, Bonnie Prince Charlie was defeated, us loyal Jacobites, my family, my grandparents, had to flee the country. All of them. All of my grandparents had to flee the country. And when I come to this table, I hear these words of prayers, of praise for Sir Walter Scott, and indeed I wish to add to them. Here we have a literary genius, but for me, he's a backsliding Jacobite. It's time that he took his Jacobitism much more seriously than he does. He's dallied too long with unionism for my liking. I would quote my old father, the old laird. Now he, even 40 years after the Union, absolutely refused to have anything whatsoever to do with the House of Hanover. In fact, he sacked one of the chaplains in Gask, he sacked him for taking the oath of allegiance to Hanover. Pet hoot, straight away. Now, if my father can still, 40 years after the Union, cling to the dream of the restoration of the Stuarts, so can a leader of our country, as Sir Walter is. There's one thing in which I would challenge Sir Walter. He has just come out, as it were, as the author of Waverley. I have had a similar experience. Now, you may not be entirely familiar with my name, but you will certainly be familiar with one or two of the airs that I have composed. Charlie Is My Darling, for instance, is one of my own compositions. There are a number of songs that I have penned that I can hear on the lips and in the throats of many people everywhere in Scotland, and it gives me great pleasure. But because I was brought up to be a lady of honour, a lady of privilege and rank, even though that rank was taken away from me by these foul Hanoverians, I kept my secret. Not even my good husband knew that I was the author of these songs. I owe it, in fact, to a Mr. Purdy who in 1824, just 5 years ago, thinking that I was Mrs. Bogan of some sort of country retreat, actually published my songs, and one or two songs that I had collected. Now, I have been prevailed upon to disclose myself as the author of these songs. And I think that I had not had quite the tact of Sir Walter in keeping the secret so well kept. But it's a great pleasure to be here. I'm pleased that perhaps at last there are many women I know in this country, not quite of my class, you understand, but who are penning great things. And we have taken it upon ourselves to purify Scottish song. People such as Robert Burns, they go around encouraging the peasants, the people, to sing songs that are perhaps just a little bit too rude. I like a little bit of rudeness, but not too much. And I've tried to see to it that the songs that will go forward will be decorous, will be proper, not full of just a little bit of nonsense here and there. And I like to get just a little dig in at the gentleman. I believe somebody's going to sing this song later, so I'll just give you one verse of this. We like to remind the gentlemen that sometimes, not looking at anybody in particular, they think our muckle of themselves. The Laird o' Cockpen, he's prude and is great. His mind is ta'en up with the things of the state. He wanted a wife his brahus to keep, but favour we wooing was fascists to seek. And what happens to the gentleman in the end? Well, as I have it. Doomfunnerd was he, nae side did he gie, he mounted his mare and rade Cannalee, and aften he thought as he gaed through the glen, she's daft to refuse the Laird o' Cockpen. So I think what we see now is the women of Scotland beginning to come out from under the cover of the great Anon. And with that, I'll hand over back to you gentlemen, and with thanks for the great hospitality. It's an honour to be asked to give a few words at an occasion like this.
Thank you, Lady Lear, for that very strong speech for the women's side of things. Now, ladies and gentlemen, our chief guest, pray be upstanding for a toast to the great and good Sir Walter Scott.
Sir Walter Scott!
Mr. Hogg, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a great privilege and honour to be asked to speak at so distinguished a gathering. If I may say so, your ladyship, I was very interested in the remarks that you made, but I do not intend to enter into a political debate.
Coward! Cowardly!
You put me in a invidious position, your ladyship, because as everyone well knows, I'm a great friend of His Majesty George IV. To revert to my prepared speech. In February 1827, I chaired a theatrical dinner held in the Assembly Rooms in Edinburgh. This dinner was highly populated with literary lions, amongst whom was Mr. Bell. And I regret to say that Mr. Bell made a very fine speech. Of course! Mr. Bell has recently published a slim volume of his excellent poetry.
Not all that slim, too.
Which I would urge you to obtain a copy if you do not already have one, but not tonight because your free funds are required for another worthy cause. Yes. As you have heard, Mr. Bell is also the editor of the Edinburgh Literary Journal.
Fine journal.
A fine periodical to which he, Hogg and Wilson all contribute. At this dinner I was prevailed upon, as has been said, to reveal the name of the hitherto anonymous author of the Waverley novels, thinking to dispel any lingering doubts and perplexities amongst readers. But this was not the case. A few days later I was returning to my quarters when I overheard a group of servants arguing about the true author of the works of William Shakespeare. You may know that this is disputed from time to time. One fellow was asserting confidently that Ben Jonson was the culprit. When an old worthy stood up, this chap had been in attendance at the aforementioned dinner, and he said, "No, he you know here, it was Sir Walter Scott." John Wilson and I have known each other for some time now. As Christopher North, and together with Lockhart, my son-in-law, and Hogg here, he wrote most of the articles and critiques in the early days of the infamous Blackwoods magazine. And using various pseudonyms, these rogues sought to malign slander and ridicule writers of the London School in particular and Whigs in general, just for the sake of a bit of mischief. However, Wilson soon came to realise his folly. Perhaps the thought of being shot by an irate scribbler finally brought him to his senses. I was very pleased in 1820 to support Professor Wilson, or Mr. Wilson as he was then, in his bid for election to the chair of moral philosophy at Edinburgh University, as was William Wordsworth, despite having formerly been a target for the critical pen of Christopher North. In all, over 30 persons of eminence throughout the country submitted testimonials in favour of Mr. Wilson. And from the day of his inaugural speech, his lecture halls have been filled to capacity. And the fame of the greatest orator in Scotland today extends well beyond the bounds of Edinburgh University. My dear Hogg, well I remember yon fishing expedition to which you alluded. It's a great pity Wilson wasn't with us on that occasion, as he was forever up to his neck in water when fishing with a rod, just to cover every possible inch of water. I first met James Hogg here in the summer of 1802, but on that occasion it was his mother who made the greatest impression on me. My first volume of Minstrelsy of the Scottish Border had just been published, and I ventured to ask Mrs. Hogg's opinion of this work, thinking to be praised. This is what she said: "There was never any of my songs printed until you printed them yourself, and you have spoiled them altogether. These songs are meant for singing, no for reading. But ye have broken the charm now, and they'll never be sung more." I trust the lady is wrong. Anyway, the Ettrick Shepherd has penned many a fine new song since then, which no doubt he'll sing to us later on this evening if he can remember his words. As a boy, I often accompanied my mother and sister to Innerleithen when they visited the spa in order to take the waters. This vile-tasting liquid was much prescribed as a cure-all, but I have always had grave reservations as to its efficacy, preferring to believe that after breathing Edinburgh reek and North Sea fog, a mere lungful of this clear border air would make anyone feel better. Anyway, Innerleithen became a fashionable resort and was much frequented by the gentry of Edinburgh during the season, these gentlemen included. These gentlemen have founded the St. Ronan's Border Club and organised the first meeting of St. Ronan's Border Games at Leithenside on the 26th of September 1827. The games are now part of the annual traditions of the town of Innerleithen. And I happen to believe that the origins and history of the town's customs should be recorded for future generations. A visitor centre installed at the pavilion at St. Ronan's Wells would make an ideal repository for the town's heritage. And it is for the purpose of funding this enterprise that the St. Ronan's Wells Appeal Fund was launched earlier this year. And it was for the purpose of augmenting this fund that you have all been enticed here tonight. Due to the great success last month of the play of St. Ronan's Well, I feel that I must conclude with a piece of advice from the redoubtable Mistress Meg Dodds, the landlady of the famous Cleacom Inn. Many a bottle of fine wine has been laid open tonight, and no doubt there will be many more to follow. Therefore, I commend to you Meg's famous dictum: "When the cork's drawn, the bottle maun be drunk out. And why for no, unless it be corked." Mr. Hogg, with your permission, I would ask the company to be upstanding for a toast.
Upstanding company.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you St. Ronan's Border Games. St. Ronan's Border Games.
Is Mr. Miller here? Mr. Miller? Yes. Where is Mr. Miller?
Call Mr. Miller.
Miller! Mine post, Mr. Miller!
Charles Miller.
Mr. Charles Miller. Calling Mr. Charles Miller.
You can't be under the table already.
Lovely in the walls. Like me, she believes in the Jacobite cause. I think we should be upstanding and drink a toast to Bonnie Prince Charlie, who is now, alas, not with us. So please, drink a glass to the King over the water. The King over the water. We come to an he thinks he has composed this, but in fact it was Sir James, Mr. Hogg himself. The Ettrick Shepherd, James Hogg.
March, march, Ettrick and Teviotdale, by the Dildelly a march forward in order. March, march, Eskdale and Liddesdale, all the blue bonnets are bound for the border. Many a banner spread flutters above your head, many a crest that is famous in story. Mount Hennick ready then, sons of the mountain glen, fight for the Queen and your old Scottish glory. Mount Hennick ready then, sons of the mountain glen, fight for the Queen and your old Scottish glory. Come from the hills where your hairsells are grazing, come from the glen of the buck and the roe. Come from the crag where the beacon is blazing, come with the buckler, the lance and the bow. Trumpets are sounding, war steeds are pounding, stand to your arms and march in good order. England shall many a day tell of the bloody fray, when the blue bonnets came over the border. England shall many a day tell of the bloody fray, when the blue bonnets came over the border.
Start with two reels. The first one was written by Neil Gowan 29 years ago, 1800, Farewell to Whiskey, and the second one is a traditional border reel, Roxburgh Castle.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. I'm afraid I can't be so conceited as to sing one of my own compositions. I may do later, but perhaps as Lady Nairn has mentioned the Laird of Cockpen, perhaps I could begin by singing the Laird of Cockpen. The Laird of Cockpen, he's proud and he's great. His mind is ta'en up with the things of the state. He wanted a wife his brahus to keep, but favoured with wooing was fashions to seek. Down by the dyke side a lady did dwell, at his table head he thought she'd look well. MacLeish is a daughter o' Clavers Holly, a bonny wee lass wi' a lang pedigree. His wig was weel put up and as good as new. His waistcoat was red, his coat it was blue. Wi' a ring on his finger, his sword and cocked hat. Now who could refuse the old laird wi' all that? He mounted his mare, he rode cannily. He rapped at the yard o' Clavers Holly. Gae tell Mistress Jean to come speedily ben. She's wanted to speak with the Laird o' Cockpen. Now Mistress Jean, she was making the elderflower wine. And what brings the joke? That's sick-a-like time. She pat off her aprons and on her silk gown, her match with red ribbons and gaed awa doon. And when she come in, the Laird would full low, and what was his errand, he soon let her know. But oh, how he sighed when the lady said, "Na!" And really Catsy, she then turned awa. The Laird was dumbfounded, nae sighed at he gie. He mounted his mare, he rode cannily. But often he thought as he rode through the glen, she was daft to refuse the Laird o' Cockpen.
Envious of those higher registers that you managed to gain, something that I couldn't do. However, perhaps from the Laird of Cockpen we could actually come to the author of that rather marvellous ballad, Lady Nairn. Now, I'm not sure whether Lady Nairn is going to sing for us or recite for us or what she may do. I'm sure she will soon find out. So, if I may ask the Baroness Lady Nairn to rise to her feet if she is so capable, after all that planet of Lady Nairn.
I must pay tribute to Professor Wilson for such a fine rendition of that song. It's very good to hear one of your own tunes sung so finely and with such spirit and animation. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm not, Professor Wilson sounds like one trained in the art of singing. I wheeple about the pantry. But I'll sing one of my own songs in a different vein, a rather quieter, perhaps more sentimental vein. A little song called The Rowan Tree. O rowan tree, that I be dear to me, entwine thou art wi' mony ties, o Haymond infancy. Thy leaves were I the first o' spring, were I the simmer's pride. There was na sic a bonny tree in all the countryside. O rowan tree, how fair wert thou in summer time, wi' all thy clusters white. How rich and gay thy autumn dress, wi' berries red and white. On thy fair stem were bonny names, which
see, but there engraven on my heart, forgot they ne'er can be. O rowan tree, we sat underneath thy spreading shade, the bairnies run they ran, they put thy bonny berries red, and necklaces they strang. My mother, oh, I see her still, she smiled our sports to see. We little Jeanie on her lap, and Jamie at her knee. Oh, rowan tree. Oh, there arose my father's prayers in holy evening's calm. How sweet was then my mother's voice in the martyr's psalm. Now again we meet nae mair underneath the rowan tree, but hallowed thoughts around thee twine, O hame and infancy. O rowan tree.
Here this evening. Can anyone tell me, has anyone caught any fish this week?
Yeah. Yep. 2 shillings.
Is he telling the truth or is he not? Has anyone not caught any fish this week? Yeah. 2 shillings for those who accepted. I will recite this very short poem about the angler. Written in the year 1829, things haven't changed, I'm quite sure, for you fishermen. An angler angling. An angler does angle, strangely enough. An angler angling in a rocky nook heard a huge noise, which earth's foundation shook, and looking upwards, twixt him and the sky, he saw a railway train go thundering by, chock full of human life and human cares, memory that saddens, hope that but ensnares, each on the purpose of the moment bent, seeking a cure for some vague discontent. The angler turned him to his sport again, and on the waters lighted not in vain the mimic lure, a yellow gleaming trout, leaping and struggling, drew the line right out. Oh, happy angler, let the train sweep by. He weighs at least a pound, that snatcher of thy fly.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've heard many songs tonight, so I think I'll give you one for Robbie Burns.
Yeah.
And it's called The Lyric. When o'er the hills the eastern star tells Barkton time is near, my Joe, and else and frae the furrowed field returns sae dull and dreary, oh, doon by yon Bangor scented birks, mind you are hanging clear, my Joe. To meet ye on the Lyric, my ain kind dearie, oh. The hunter lose the morning sun to rouse the mountain deer, my Joe. At noon the fisher seeks the glen, along the burn to steer, my Joe.
Give me the old glum and grey, it makes my head say cheerio. To me tea on the lyric, my ain kind dearie, oh. In Mercus Glen at Nednector I drove a nerbeerie, oh. If through that glen I get to thee, my ain kind dearie, oh. And though the next were nersy wild, and I was nersy weary, oh, I'd meet ye on the lyric, my kind dearie, oh.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. That was superb. Now I'd like to welcome back, that's 2 shillings, sir. I'd like to welcome back the best wee fiddler in the whole of Scotland, Karen Hunter. Karen, can you manage to make your way up to the top table again? She really is superb, Karen, and later on in the bar she will be happy to play you an individual tune for a glass of champagne. Helps the fiddling elbow very well. Karen Hunter.
2 marches now, Sidwell Hills and The Wife She Brewed It.
O Mary, at thy window be, it is the wish that thrice did o'er. Those smiles and glances let me see, that mark the miser's treasure poor, who blithely would I by the stour, a weary slave for his son, could I the rich reward secure, the lovely Mary Morrison. Yes, 320 the stented string, the dance get through the lichted hall. To thee my fancy took its wing. I sat but neither heard nor saw, though this was fair and that was braw, and yon the toast o'er the tune. I sighed and said among them all, Yarna Mary Morrison. O Mary, canst thou wreck his peace, what for thy sake would gladly die? Or canst thou break that heart o' his, was only for his loving thee? If love for love thou wilt not gie, at least be pity to me shown. A thought and gentle can I be, the thought o' Mary Morrison.
That was one of the most beautiful of Burns' songs. But now our evening is drawing to a close, and as Mr. Miller has warned me, by about 11:30 we will have to gradually leak out, as it were, into the bar, because we have to set up the tables for your breakfast in the morning. However, and if I can give notice to the piper in about 5 minutes, to play us out if he can. But we cannot leave the top table without going back to our good Jacobite friend, the Baroness Lady Nairn. Now, I'm not sure, Lady Nairn, whether you're going to sing or to recite for us now, this last rendering. But I'll hand you over anyway to the Baroness Lady Nairn.
Well, I spoke earlier about my mission to purify the Scots songs of their rude and uncouth elements. I must admit that several glasses of claret have made me repent of this ambition, and therefore I'll sing you one of the songs that I was proposing to make a more proper, more decorous, cleaner version of. It's a song that is sung by the people in the fields as they make the hay, and it's a song called Dainty Davy. And you can imagine what Dainty Davy means. It's an appreciation of something that is very much worth appreciating. It was in and through the window broads and all the tally whirlies o' it, the sweetest kiss that I got was from my Dainty Davy. There's a chorus, so do join in. Oh, leaves me on your calipow, Dainty Davy, Dainty Davy, leaves me on your calipow, my dear Dainty Davy. When he was chased by a dragoon, into my bed he was laid down. I thought him worthy of his room, for he was my Dainty Davy. Oh, leaves me on your calipow, Dainty Davy, Dainty Davy, leaves me on your calipow, my
'twas in and through my daddy's peas, and underneath the cherry trees was there he kissed me as he pleased, for he was my dainty Davy. Oh, leave me on your calipo, dainty Davy, dainty Davy. Leave me on your calipo, my dear dainty Davy. And one last chorus, you're doing that very well. Oh, leave me on your calipo, dainty Davy, dainty Davy. Leave me on your calipo, my dear dainty Davy.
It up now to see us out, and of course our delightful friends.
Dainty David,
Who, by the way, complained that they have not been tweaked sufficiently, you know, you haven't fondled them enough. Hopefully you may put that to rights later on. But one or two of the entertainers will be in the bar, including the marvellous fiddler who works on champagne, Karen, who will play. So from the top table to you, who have been so patient and such a marvellous audience, indeed part of us all this evening, thank you very much indeed.